Alright everyone, it's story time. So what's going on everyone? Welcome to this installment of Mike's Vehicle Vlogs. I want to thank you for joining me today. This vlog, there might not be a whole lot to it, to be quite honest with you. However, it does pertain to Jade, the 03 Pontiac Grand Am GT Coupe. And it's just one more thing to kind of add to the list of things that are going to have to be taken care of pretty much immediately. And it's kind of interesting at how this has played out so far. So, like I said, it's story time. We'll check something out here in a little bit, and I'll obviously show you guys what my conclusion of the situation is. So let's hop inside real quick, and I will give you a rundown on exactly what she's been doing to me for the last, 2 weeks. Okay, so I guess I have to film from the side because apparently I chose to film when the sun's directly shooting onto the windshield, so the lighting's awful. I apologize, but nonetheless, let's continue. So I noticed something the day that I was fixing my stepsister's Saab 9.3. We did a valve cover replacement. If you didn't see that vlog, that was a couple of vlogs ago at this point. Check it out if you're interested in Saabs or just watching me take things apart and putting things back together. But the whole thing was that day, I took this car to drop off and pick up the Saab and do the work to the Saab, and then drop the Saab back off to her and pick this car back up. Now I noticed when I went to go pick this car back up, I got into it and I went to go start it, and it sounded like she was having a hard time turning over. Not a whole lot, but there was like a hiccup, like a row, then it would kick on. And it was kind of weird because that was the first time that has ever happened. And I was initially thinking, maybe there was just, like I said, a hiccup. But then later on that day, I went to go take this car out again, and it did it again. And I'm starting to think, okay, it's got to be the starter. The starter is possibly getting weak. There might be a dead spot in, I don't know, maybe one of the brushes. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking, okay, it's probably the starter. That's my initial reaction. And then there were a couple of days where I would take this car out afterwards, and no problem. It's really weird. And then just about every time from there on out, it started doing it consistently. Every time I would get in to start this car, and it would, do the same thing. It just sounded like something is putting a lot of strain on the starter. I was even starting to wonder if maybe the engine itself is kind of seizing or something, because it sounded like the starter was just kind of working really hard to get this thing to turn over. I'm pretty sure it's the starter. Now, some of you guys may also be thinking at this point, well, what about the battery? There were two things on this Grand Am when I bought it that I was most certain that I was not going to have to replace during this vehicle's life with me. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be driving this thing until the wheels fall off or something. I don't know. Hopefully not literally, but there's life in the car, but there's not much life. The rust, of course, is an issue with these older cars that I buy like this, being from Northeast Ohio, and most of these cars spend their lifetime in Ohio. Even though the outside of this car looks pretty good for its age and mileage even, the underside where the rockers and stuff were are completely, gone. And, so structurally, I think the car is going to die that way before anything with the engine, transmission, anything mechanically in the car is going to take a toll. But regardless, there were two things in this car that I thought I was not ever going to have to replace. One of them being the alternator, because I was told when I bought this car almost a year ago that the alternator was replaced not too long before I bought this car. And second goes with the battery, which I was also told was not that old at the time, had been replaced. So I honestly don't know if I ever got a look at the battery date when I had it out. I'm not sure if it's even on there. I can't remember at this point. But the battery itself is probably maybe 2 years old at max, I'm thinking. It's an AC Delco battery. And obviously that was, selling points for me to buy the car. So the battery is completely out of my mind at this point. I'm still dead set the starter is going bad. So I decided to do something with this car, and after so many times of this starter acting up, I decided, okay, I'm going to let it sit for like 5 days. I let it sit for about a week. Plus with the heat recently, last week and whatnot, with no air conditioning, I decided the Fusion was going to be a better fit to drive anyway. So this car sat for like 5 days, and I decided to take it out the one day. But before I started it, I took my multimeter and decided to see where the battery voltage was sitting. I hooked up the multimeter. The battery is sitting at 12.6 volts. Perfect stationary charge on the battery. And then I got into it, started it up. Same thing. So, you guys, I'm still dead set on it being a starter. The battery looked like it was tested good. Not really tested, but, it had the perfect amount of charge. It was a perfectly sitting battery. Did not lose any power. Didn't lose any voltage at all. Sitting here for 5 days without being touched. And that's why, again, I was writing off the battery. Still think it's the starter. It's gotta be. It's gotta be the starter. Let's fast forward to today. So this morning, I decided to take this car to work. And it is a little bit colder today. The sun's out. We were in the mid-60s all day today. A little bit breezy, so that's why it's a little chilly. But this morning, it was closer to like 50, 55 degrees-ish, It was chilly morning. And I get into this car, and sure enough, the starter is really, struggling. And I'm like, wow, this is getting a lot worse. I went to go get food for lunch when after I was at work for so long. And at that point, when I went to go start it, it almost didn't want to start at all. And that was the first time that I was really convinced maybe it is the battery. It just did not want to go. It did not want to turn over. The lights actually got dim on the dash. Everything kind of died for a moment while I was trying to crank it, and that's why I was starting to think maybe it is the battery. So I did a battery test when I was able to, once I got back to work. I actually brought my little tester home. This is my little Mac tool battery tester. It's just a little guy. Don't really use this at work, to be honest with you, but I decided, with it being a side post battery and these little tiny clamps, this will probably work okay. So I tested the battery at work, and let me show you guys what's going on. Yeah, so see, even if you take a look at this battery, it does not look bad at all. Hasn't collected enough dirt, 630 cold crank amps. AC Delco battery, so it's the actual brand that should be in a GM product. Pain in the butt side post, of course. let's hook this little guy up. Now this is kind of tough because these posts here are a little corroded and rusty. So once we get this on, that'll turn on. So this battery, as you can see, is sitting at 12.76 volts. It's actually a tad over. 12.6 is that perfect charge. So we'll select this. Cold crank amps. 630, remembered it from earlier. So if we hit enter, it might not work right away, but it's gonna test it. Testing, bad. That battery only put out 500 cold cranking amps. So wouldn't you know it, it is the battery. The battery's bad. And here all this time, because this battery, like I said, is probably what, 2 years old? I was not thinking the battery was going to be my issue. But there it is. And look, it still is over 12.7 volts. But when this little guy put a load on this battery, it only pulled 500 cold cranking amps out of it and deemed the battery bad. Ain't that something? I really thought I was not going to have to replace a battery in this car. Same with the alternator, hopefully. And now that I know this battery's bad, I know the alternator is probably getting some strain on it. And well, the starter, of course, with this battery apparently being so weak, each time I try to start the car, it's probably burning up a solenoid or something in the starter. So now that we actually did that test, let's try to start it, and you guys can hear for yourselves exactly what it's been doing. So that was actually the first time it did not turn over at all, and I'm kind of surprised that it did this time. But that's pretty much it. So like today was definitely the worst. It is colder outside. I gotta replace this battery apparently. And like I said, I did not think I was gonna have to do that with this car. Once it's running, of course, everything's in check. The alternator's, like I said, probably taking over most of the loads, which is weird because, like I said, this thing is, it's strong enough to actually hold a charge as long as no load is applied to it. And the second you apply, you know, that load with the starter and whatnot, the starter probably being the heaviest load that's ever going to be applied to the, you know, the battery, which is what its primary things for, you know. Well, it just isn't strong enough to hold that, I guess. So there's probably a dead cell in there, or a really weak cell, and I gotta figure out what I want to do now. So I guess the next question is, do I want to drop $120 some for a brand new battery, or do I want to just go to the junkyard, test some of my own batteries there for like $35 or something, like I did with the Aztec? Being that this car is, you know, if I spend $120 some on a battery, I would assume again that that battery would last, even outlive the life of this car. So I don't know. I don't know what I want to do with that yet, but you guys will probably find out here very soon in this video. So I guess you know, the moral of the story here is, just because a battery is brand new, or at least, you know, a few years old at best, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to last as long as it should. I would have imagined at least 5 years out of that battery. Yeah, and I don't know. I guess that's the moral of the story. That's what I got anyway. So yeah, we're probably going to do a battery by the end of the video. And then we'll just see how well it starts from there. I'm assuming better. as long as there's no other damage to the starter and whatnot. So I will see you guys in a bit with a battery from somewhere, new or used. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so after giving it like another week to think about what we were going to do as far as the battery situation with the Grand Am, I've decided to go with a used battery like I did with the Aztec. Only because, for one, I just at the moment can't really justify spending well over $100 for a battery for this car. And two, just on the chance of it being the starter itself actually acting up, which I don't think it is. We'll find out here in a moment. But the battery did test bad. In fact, I let the car sit for about another week, and today is the first day that it's actually been out since I last filmed this video, or yeah, this vlog. So I tested the battery again this morning before I took the car out, and it was actually testing worse than it was the other day when we did it originally. So it tested at 477 cold crank amps. The last time I believe it was 500, if I'm not mistaken, so it was even weaker. It did start up decent, but throughout the day, as I was going from place to place, it was doing the same thing where it was just dropping out. And yeah, so we went to the junkyard. I got rained on today. I got soaked at the junkyard, and we did end up getting another battery. Ironically enough, I ended up getting another AC Delco battery. It did test good at the junkyard, so we'll obviously test it again. I did buy a short warranty with it in case it's no good, but it did test good at the junkyard, so we're going to throw it in. The only thing that I noticed is this is a 75A series battery from AC Delco, 630 cold crank amps, 90 reserve, and then this one here is a 75S, 630 cold crank amps, 90 reserve. It's got the same exact specs. I do, however, wonder if this battery may be a little more advanced compared to this one. Maybe this one's just the basic. I have no idea. I tried doing some research on them, and they both look like they have the same specs from what I can see. So yeah, obviously it's the same size. It should fit in just fine, and like I said, it tested good at the junkyard. We're going to take this one out and put that one in and see how well it does. Also, we're going to lose the service engine light. That's been on forever, but I already know what the codes are for, obviously, so they'll be back. There we go. It just seems to be a little bit easier to get this out of here when you're taking the battery out and stuff, because this side kind of sits against the terminals. Yeah, I mean, these batteries look exactly the same. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how good the other one is. And there's no dates on either one of them. So this battery, like I said, I'm assuming is at least 2 years old. She said it was new. This one, I don't know. I can't find a date on it, so it's just going to be a gamble. Alright guys, so our battery's out, and I noticed we do have some corrosion on the positive side. So maybe that's a factor in why we were having the issues that we were having. This side looks clean. Now the post itself, see, I should have maybe bought these to replace also, but I might try to clean it off. The negative side looks pretty decent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, wonder if I can try to take this off, I bet. Alright, so I got the, yeah, I kind of wish I did buy another one of these. We'll try and clean that up. But anyway, so we got that taken off, and here's what we got. So, yeah, it was a little crusty. Like I said, this one looks pretty decent. I don't even know if I want to mess with this, because sometimes these are a pain. One's good enough. So, I might get the baking soda and water, and we'll try to clean it off that way. Get a little brush, and try and see if we can clean it up a little bit before we stick the new battery in. It's foaming up in the tray real good. I don't know if you can see that. This brush is a little too big for this, but it's all that I've got here at the house. If this was a top post battery, we could have used the, you know, the top post battery brush that fits onto the, you know, battery post just fine, but this is all I've got. Hot water and baking soda, man. The first time I ever saw this trick was when my dad did it when I was younger. Blew my mind watching it foam up and stuff like this. So, so that looks pretty good. I don't know if it's gonna get any better. The back definitely looks better. I don't need that going in there. Now I gotta try to clean this off. I'm gonna try to do this on the ground. Okay, now we got some clean water. We're just dumping it on there. Filling up the battery tray. Alright, so we got the new battery in. And let's do our same test here. If I can grab a hold of everything with one hand, that'd be great. Okay, so right now it's sitting at 12.5. Pretty good. It's still 6:30. Testing, testing, testing. 862? What? Let's try it again. It says it's okay, but 862 cold crank. Alright. So we'll start it up. We'll do cranking. We'll go ahead and start it and see what our cranking voltage was. We don't have to put this air tube on yet. It's still good to go. See if the starter sounds better. Everything reset, of course. Here we go. Sounded normal to me. It cranked at 11:16, so that's good. I should have done this with the other one, but 11:16. Alternator's putting out a good amount. So yeah. Shut it off and see how it sounds again. There's a fly in here. Maybe I can go out the sunroof. There it goes. Now the extended cranks, from my understanding, is because I had everything unplugged and stuff, the cam and crank sensors have to be recalculated and stuff. Like I said, we lost our service engine light. That'll be back on within a few miles, I'm sure. Oh, it sounds a lot better. So yeah, the battery, I do believe, was our culprit for sure. So there we go. We'll see how long this battery happens to last. Which is really surprising. So I kind of wonder, like I said, if the A75A is maybe more of a basic AC Delco battery. Like I said, they both have the same warranty, 18-month. Yeah, but no date. There's no date on it anywhere. It's the same thing with the one I just put in. So, like I said, this is an S. I wonder if the S is better in some way, shape, or form. So, we'll give it time. Like I said, I bought a little warranty with it. Within the week, if anything happens to be wrong with it, then I could take it back. Wasn't a whole lot of side post batteries to choose from. Try to get our cap back on here. Maybe. Where it should be. There we go. Okay. And I'll put the tube back on, and we will do the other slight fix for the car today. And the other thing we're doing today has to do with this tail light. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys or not, but this tail light has a burnt out reverse light, and I replaced the bulb, but when I replaced the new bulb, you know, I noticed the socket was all corroded, and there's water getting into this lens. It may have been getting into it from the time that I bought the car, you know, last year. I don't know. Earlier today, when it was really humid out after another rainstorm, you can actually see the water inside here, the like fogginess, and sometimes you can see like a little droplets. The other side I don't think has any water getting into it. I haven't noticed it. I can say this lower reverse light is also getting water in it. You can see the droplets inside there. So I don't know if I'm gonna go through trying to replace that one or not, but I do want to replace this one. I can also see a crack here. It looks like, I don't know if that went all the way through, but that could be maybe one of the reasons why. So we'll just do a small test here. Turn the ignition on, and let's see, we'll put it in reverse. Now I have something chalking the wheels. Yeah, she's not going anywhere. Okay. And yeah, so as you can see, they all work except for this one, and that's a brand new bulb in there. So I was gonna replace just the circuit board in there that holds all the bulbs. It's much similar to what my mom's Malibu had. One large piece of plastic with all the sockets for the bulbs. But I decided to just get a whole other lens. So this lens actually came off of a 2000 Grand Am GT, and I don't know if it's the original for how old that one was. That Grand Am, actually, for it being in the junkyard, was in pretty decent shape. So maybe it is, I don't know. But you know, it looked okay. Didn't see any signs of water. There might be water in it, or have gotten into it, I don't know. It was $21. We're just gonna swap it. The circuit board's with it. There's the circuit board, one plug. Another thing is these tabs on these that hold it in get really brittle over time, and here's something rattling in there. And the seal around it can also be bad. I think that may have also been the case with this one. But, you know, just for poop and laughter, we're going to go ahead and switch it out real quick. So, uh-oh, that's not good. What is that? That's not the antenna. No, the antenna's over there. I don't know. I wondered what that wire was. Anyway, let's disconnect all these little wing nuts. 4 of them. 5 including the little center one there, and that's usually like your, if you have like a trunk net, that goes through this hole in the carpet here, and you hook your net to it. I'm just hoping it didn't wick up the actual connector and corrode the wire. Hopefully it's still just in the socket, you know. So, what's this? Is this loose? It is. Who's that guy and why is he wet? Uh-oh. Is the water getting in here? Well, maybe. Yeah, who knows how much time I've got left with her. There we go. So like I said, that's it, just one connector. Okay, so it's off. Take this out. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised it's as dry as it is right now, considering the fact that it monsooned earlier. So these look good. I don't see any sign of corrosion in there, so that's good. So the wire itself is probably still good. If we look at the back, it still looked good. I noticed when I was pulling on that earlier, yeah, see how it's kind of coming apart, so it's not staying in the tab. Even if I push on it, it's probably just worn out. But that's kind of one of the stupider things that I think GM decided to do, was make this all one piece. I don't know why. That tab's completely broken. See if I can get the rest of it apart real quick. Yeah. So that's the board there. On this side, this would be the reverse light. This is my new bulb. If I can get it out, I don't know. Yeah, there we go. You can even see the rust on there. So that socket was getting pretty crusty on the inside. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, no good. And it was probably going to be a matter of time before these decided to crap out also. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of water dripping out of it. Other bits of debris falling out. So yeah, let's plug in the new one and hope that it is good. I don't really want to take that backing off unless, you know, we have any bulbs burnt out. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to screw it into the body until we make sure there's nothing wrong with it. I did look at that earlier. It looked pretty good. So plug it in. Did it click? They don't click. They just... But it's in. Just get it to sit there. Okay. It needs cleaned up, obviously. Let's try the same thing here. Actually, let's do this. We're going to put the headlights on, put the hazards on. Oops, wrong button. And throw it in reverse. Hey, look at that. And it looks like all the other lights are working. I just gotta check to see if the actual brake light works. So I'm gonna have to step on the pedal and rely on this camera to show me the footage of those lights getting brighter when I step on the pedal. And judging from what I just saw, it's good. So that's one more minor repair that we have corrected for my poor little Grand Am. So now we can put the wing nuts back on. And that's it. So I'm going to wrap up this video. Again, really surprised that that battery was bad already. I'm going to start this up one more time. Yeah, it sounds a lot stronger than it, it did. So, yeah, battery. Got our new taillight assembly in there, and we'll see how long that lasts also. But guys, that's it. So if you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and also check out teespring.com/stores/Mike's Vehicle Spotlight for all of your MVS and vlog merchandise. And that's all that I've got. So I will see you guys next time. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and take care.